Blade Runner 2049 is the newest film from Denis Villeneuve and is the sequel to Blade Runner, the 1982 masterpiece directed by Ridley Scott. A lot of film critics have been asked by the director and the filmmakers themselves to not really give any spoilers. In their words, don't talk about anything that's not in the trailer. So because of that, I'm just going to use the original Wikipedia description for it, because if you go on it now, it's going to have the entire plot. So, basic summary. A new Blade Runner, who is LAPD Officer K, discovers a secret that could actually bring an end to humanity. This discovery leads him to Rick Deckard, a former Blade Runner who disappeared 30 years prior. Ryan Gosling portrays K, and he's really good in this film. As his character goes through the story, the details that he uncovers makes him question his mission simply because of the conflict of emotions that he's going through. It's difficult for him to process a lot of what he learns, and it just continued to pull me in. Harrison Ford reprises his role as Rick Deckard, and this is one of the best performances he's given in years. And he's portraying a more traumatized version of his character because in the time between this film and the original Blade Runner, he's gone through a lot of shit. And when you actually learn everything that he's gone through, you really become sympathetic. And there were actually parts during the film when I was watching his performance, and he actually made me tear up because of just how he was acting. Just focusing on body movement and facial expressions instead of dialogue. I will not say anything particular about Jared Leto or his character, because I honestly feel like even giving away his name would be a bit of a spoiler, but just know I was enthralled by his performance. I loved Jared Leto in this movie. And just as a small mention, Dave Bautista is in one scene in this film, and he is really good in this. And I love how during press junkets for whatever films he's doing, he always talks about how he's not a good actor. Well, he's almost there. I honestly believe that he could have about the same trajectory as The Rock did. Now for the story. First, I have one simple word just to describe the entire story. Perfect. This world feels like the Blade Runner I know, and yet it feels different because while looking and feeling like it's in the same universe, 30 years have passed, and thank God, technology has progressed far enough to where it actually does seem like time has actually progressed between the two films. And while we're on the subject of story, I love whenever a story can just keep me guessing. I wasn't able to predict the twists and turns that happened in this movie, and even when there were parts where I started predicting, predicting some of the plot points, the rug was pulled out from under me. I got all of my predictions wrong, and it made me leave the theater with a smile on my face. It's not the only reason I left with a smile, but I'll get to those later. Let's just, let's do like a ranking thing. Right now, just the story and its unpredictability is at like number 3. I went into this film expecting that it would just be taken as a revitalization of a franchise, a reboot, to set up future sequels and spin-offs and make an entire Blade Runner universe. Nope, it didn't do that. And it made me happy because you could tell just watching this from beginning to end, the sole objective for the director and the filmmakers was just to tell a story, and they told it. They just kept it as a standalone story, and it made me so happy. One thing I did realize once the credits started rolling at the end was watching this film, I had felt a certain way that I hadn't, that I don't usually feel unless I watch certain movies for the first time, like when I watched the original Star Wars movie, Empire, Ben-Hur, 10 Commandments, Return of the King. And those films that I listed are considered epics, which are basically large-scale sweeping spectacles. And Blade Runner 2049 is a modern epic. The visual effects in this film are the best that I've seen all year, using that same cyberpunk feel that the original Blade Runner first used and ended up becoming an inspiration for so many other brands, like, for instance, the anime Ghost in the Shell, just to use as one example. And I honestly had very little idea what was effects and what was what was visual effects and what was just practical effects a lot of the time. Though the visuals are not the most impressive feature in the film. That's actually in spot number 2. So unpredictable story and visuals, and next is number 1. The most impressive part about Blade Runner 2049, which I believe will and should win the film an Oscar, is the cinematography done by 13-time Academy Award nominated Roger Deakins, who is known for his camera work in quite a few Coen Brothers movies, has also collaborated with Denis Villeneuve a few times in the past, and probably one of his most famous works, The Shawshank Redemption. The camera work in Blade Runner 2049 is some of the best that I've ever seen. Simply put, it's just beauty made physical.
It makes that clock melt.
Thanks.
I figured you needed some help with a good analogy.
Thank you! I actually did.
You're welcome.
The man has been nominated, as I already said, 13 times for an Academy Award in cinematography, and he still hasn't won. I'm telling you, this is our next cinematography win at the Academy Awards, coming this February or March, whenever the hell they have it. I don't think anything that has come out this year, or will come out this year, will compare to this. And I know he will never hear me say this, but Mr. Deakins, thank you so much for all of your work, and specifically thank you for everything you've done in the Coen Brothers movies and Blade Runner 2049. Because of Blade Runner, I do believe that your name will go down in history as a legend, if it hasn't already. The musical score is composed by Hans Zimmer, and one of his many, he has way too many of these, collaborators, Benjamin Wallfish. And I didn't see any difference between the style of music in this sequel or the original film. It was an amazing spectacle of synthesized and ambient orchestrations, and it blended into the sound design perfectly. One thing I must say before I go and do my rating and all of that, and, like, you know, my final thoughts on the film, the theater that I went to see Blade Runner 2049 was at my local AMC theater in the room that we call the Dolby Cinema, which is among the most cutting-edge theaters in the world, with amazing and dramatic imagery, moving audio, and a top-tier speaker system. And this doesn't really have anything to do with the film, but I just love bragging about it. It has the best leather seats, in my opinion. When the film finally started, immediately the room started to shake because of the ambient sound coming out of the speakers, and it ran for 3 minutes consecutive, non-stop, and I fucking loved it. When you go to see this movie, find the best theater room with the best sound system that is near you. You will not regret it. In the end, I highly recommend this film. It's one of the best films that's come out this year. Top 3 for me so far. It's one of the greatest sequels that's ever been made. And just, this will be seen years down the road as one of the greatest films ever made. This will be inspiration for future filmmakers coming down the line who will become the next Martin Scorsese's, who will become the next Steven Spielberg's, who will become the next Denis Villeneuve. And I'll go ahead and throw in Christopher Nolan because I love him.
You need an American flag in the fucking background at that point. Film directors for president. Film composers for Secretary of State.
No. No. Vice President John Williams.
God damn it, you would. Who would be the fucking president?
Steven Spielberg, obviously.
Damn? Damn?
Yeah, anyway, moving on. And now to finish off my ramble from a second ago before she interrupted with some cool shit. Denis Villeneuve has finally cemented himself as one of the best directors working today. An instant masterpiece. I am giving Blade Runner 2049 a much well-deserved 5 out of 5 reels. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please subscribe to my channel for more reviews and content. Oh, also, for those of you who've been sticking with me for a long while, I finally got the Movie Pass! And I will be using it soon. I would have used it for Blade Runner, but I already bought the tickets the day before this actually came in the mail, and actually I'm going to put it up so that nobody can steal the numbers. But I will be using it soon, and when I do, I will not only do a review on the movie, but I will actually do a separate video. Excuse me, I'm still a little bit sick. But I will be making a separate video just on my experience with using the card, a few of the benefits and limitations, as well as, hey, do I recommend that you guys subscribe to it? Well, that'll do it for me, and actually, I gotta say, I wore this to the actual premiere, and even though it's a Doctor Who jacket, as you can see, I thought it'd be cool because, you know, it's Blade Runner, they're all walking around in nice big coats, trench coats, pea coats, whatever, and I just thought this was appropriate. I just had to show this off for a little bit. But enough rambling. As always, thank you so much for watching, and farewell until the next video. Bye, guys.